really understanding the problem to be solved, pull the covers off and look under the covers a little bit to understand what is really different about that really makes sense. I apply that to almost everything we do now. Anytime we go into a situation where we're looking at some kind of enterprise software, it's really understanding what's the problem that has to be solved.
Great leadership insight and advice for all leaders. Welcome back to CEO Tech Live. I'm Ben Fanning, your host. This episode's powered by Hexaware. And today I've got a treat for you with Kal Majmundar, who is the Chief Technology Officer at Patelco Credit Union. Now, if you're not familiar with Patelco Credit Union, you should, because they're one of the largest credit unions in the nation with over $9.5 billion in assets and over 500,000 members nationwide. Kal has also served in senior leadership roles at companies like Visa, Lending Club, Levi Strauss, Gap, and Mattel. And Patelco started back in 1936 with over only $500 in assets and a few employees at Pacific Telephone and Telegraph Company. Now AT&T had the dream of creating a credit union, and they are 87 years in. Wow. And by the way, Kal also serves as a board advisor at Vital eCare and Orbis Electric. Kal, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Ben. Appreciate that. And I appreciate you doing the research on Patelco. That's great.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know a lot about it. Started digging in. I'm like, this is a really interesting organization. You guys are making a big impact. But even bigger than that is your background. I mean, come on. Credit union, but toys, credit cards with Visa, Levi Strauss jeans. I mean, this is, you've just worked in Gap. You've worked for so many different organizations.
I do have to say I have 4 kids. So these were properly thought through as I made these career moves so that it would coincide with the ages of the kids that I had and where they were within their lifestyle, that I could either give them the toys that they need when they're young or the clothing that they need when they got older. No, I'm kidding.
So toys when they're 4.
I'm kidding.
Then they hit jeans, then they hit clothes, and now they're under credit unions, right?
And they're even the Visa with the payment processing, they're going to swipe credit cards. So, you might as well.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, what's it like being CTO of such a huge credit union?
I actually, if I look back, and I'm going to talk a little bit about this, I'm sure, but I love it. I actually absolutely love it. I'm at a point in my career where I spent an enormous amount of time in different roles, really helping the bottom lines of these public-based companies, right? And working in this not-for-profit industry is just it's bringing a different meaning to what I do now. It really does. And so being able to take the kind of the 3 decades worth of experience that I've had in technology and bringing, I would say innovative solutions to supporting those specific areas and bringing that to a credit union that typically doesn't have the technical chops or cachet that a fintech or a large institution does, it really makes a difference, right? So I almost feel as if I'm being able to do something that helps me be rewarded more for giving back, right? Wow. So that's really why I love it. I truly love it. And the management team, the company, the focus on our mission is just incredible, right? Our members come first.
Oh, man, what a cool experience. And so what's your advice for leaders out there who have been working for publicly traded companies but haven't gone into this world that you're in?
I think it's like people really need to think about what they've been put on this earth for, right? And from that perspective, really think about how they can give back and do the right thing for humanity in some cases, right? I mean, there's just a lot of different jobs you can have in the world. And at some point in your career, you want to think about what really fulfills you, what is important, what is most important to you. And when I'll be honest with you, the only thing I knew about Patelco is when I was 21, I got my first car loan there, and I was working as a software developer for a smaller software company. And after that, once I paid that loan off, I really didn't have a lot of interactions with Patelco. I banked with where my father banked. And then as I joined this company, learning more about what credit unions are all about and the mission that they're fulfilling is just it is really an eye opener.
Well, what is the mission that they're fulfilling?
The mission is about financial wellness for the consumers that we support, right? And for us, each credit union has a various difference in their charter, right? What their charter membership is all about. And ours is about the communities that we operate in and those people that live, worship, or work in those areas. They're entitled for membership within our communities. And we typically focus on those working families within the surrounding areas. And those are typically consumers that they're getting by, but they're really not getting ahead, I would say, right? Now that's I don't want to generalize that for that. I think it's a good portion of our membership and our charter is really focused around those working families. And how do we help them with the financial products that they need every day, right, to help them in a better position? So that's really kind of what I mean. I look back at it every day when I go home, and I just think about what we do and the impact that we have, and I just wish more consumers out there realize that there are financial institutions to help them versus the larger ones that really tailor more towards the high net clients these days, the fintechs that really focus on a different product offering for a different consumer segment. But there are differences, right? I mean, even our membership now, we're starting to get a younger consumer as a member, which is great, right? But there are still the advantages and disadvantages depending on which institution you're dealing with, right?
Wow. It sounds like a lot of meaning in that. I'm curious, having worked for so many different organizations and probably keeping a pretty high pace, how do you manage and how have you managed 4 kids and work-life balance and being dad?
You know, I will say that I had an incredible woman behind me, right? That was I would say the rock that kept the focus on our family while giving me the opportunity to build my career, right? And to this day, I mean, I love her to death, right? We've been married 32 years.
Congratulations.
We have kids from 25 to 30. No grandkids yet, but that is hopefully in the cards. That's what my hope is in the near future.
Wow.
Yeah, but no, I'll tell you,
great team. It sounds like
you have to. I think for you to really build one of the two individuals to really build that career, you have to have the support of the other. I mean, it's mandatory, absolutely imperative. So.
When's the time you had an unexpected twist or failure in your career, and how did it lead to your success or growth on down the road?
You know, I was working for a Fortune 100 company, one of the ones that you named, and I was in a global role. So I had both the head of the Americas as a focus, and then I ran the global alignment around certain business processes, which were around the retail area. And one of the things that came to mind is we had, so it was the company was really broken up into 3 regions, the Americas, Asia Pac, and Europe. And we were going through a major technology overhaul on the system side to support our retail presence. And you know, it's interesting. I still look back at this and try to think about different ways I could have handled it. But there was some retail systems that were put in place in Asia that were fundamentally working just fine. They were supporting the POS presence, the inventory management functions, the supply chain functions. And there was a decision made in the US that we wanted to basically migrate to that same platform. Now, the challenge that we had is nobody really looked at the business models that were operating in Europe or Asia versus the Americas. One was a owned and operated mode, and one was a franchisee mode. So if you think about it, there are 2 different models that are in place. And one of the things that we didn't look at is how the systems that were implemented in Asia would respond to not only a higher brick and mortar footprint in the U.S., but you know, what would the changes need to be associated with that? And the decision was made at a pay grade higher than mine, in support with the CEO of the company, and that at that time, the decision was made, and we went into an implementation, which didn't go as well as we would hope. and it really turned into some major implications for the U.S. business. And to the point where we work really closely. The good news is we had really good relationships with the software company, so we were able to kind of work through things, but it had some negative impact on the consumer. And looking back at that, one of the things that I think would have probably been appropriate at the time is really challenging that decision, or at least being able to say, what is it that we're trying to solve? And is there any variations in that model that we should be thinking of? And even doing some proof of concepts at the levels that we should, with the volumes that we were thinking of. So, I've always been an advocate that, and I say this jokingly with my business partners, business partners that go to conferences and then come back excited about a technology or something that they hear, they see and touch or talk to a salesperson about, I consider those shiny objects. Right. They're shiny objects. And those things are distractions from what we're trying to do. So the fundamental thing is really understanding what problem we're trying to solve, right? What are some of those core requirements that we need? And then basing that to define what the solution sets that you need to put in place, right? You have to marry the two together, right? It's great. I go down the street and I'm a car guy, right? So I'll go down the street and see the new Lamborghini and all that fun stuff. But it's like you look at it and say, it's a shiny object. Right? Yeah. What is my need for a car? What is it that I'm looking for? Am I looking for something to get from point A to point B? Or am I looking for a race car to get on a racetrack? Right? You have to think about it from the requirements perspective.
Yeah, starting with the problem first, helping you prioritize, and then you can build around that versus
that's right.
That's a cool solution versus is that the solution that solves our problem?
That's right. So that's why from that perspective, really understanding the problem to be solved and understanding a little bit more of the, pull the covers off and look under the covers a little bit to understand what is really different about that really makes sense. So, I apply that to almost everything we do now, right? Anytime we go into a situation where we're looking at some kind of enterprise software or enterprise solution, because we do a lot of custom building as well of applications, it's really understanding what's the problem that has to be solved. Yeah. And starting there first.
Great leadership insight and advice for all leaders. And really, you've got to be that person in the organization if you're an executive. You got to be the person that grounds everything.
You do. And sometimes it's tough because you have to make the hard decisions for people, right? Or you have to say no at times, right? So I always like this notion of a qualified yes, right? Yes, but, right? Yes, we need to understand a little bit more about what you're trying to achieve before we can answer that question, right? And sometimes I don't make friends, right? Because they want to be able to do something faster than we can. But my goal is to minimize risk to projects, or implementing things that we only implement a small portion of. We really need to look at the thing holistically. So.
Yeah, so good. Well, thinking about Hexaware, what's been the benefit of working with them?
Yeah, working for a not-for-profit, we have to make choices on how we invest, right? And one of the things that we wanted to be able to do is really invest in technology as an enabler for our membership and bring the things to the membership that, one, that helps us engage better, helps us put a focus on them versus on us, right? And to do that, being able to do that through a capacity and a scalability model is really what my goal was. So when we interacted with Hexaware back when I first started, I've been with Patelco a little over 4 years, coming up on 5 in June, actually in June. The goal was to be able to align with a partner that we can minimize risks to the business because of single points of failure, capacity constraints, thought leadership that we might have needed, and do it through a lower cost model. And that's really what we've done. So we have a relationship where we use some of their team members out of Mexico and also in India, so that we have that alignment with an overlap in time zones, so that we're not having to get on calls at 10 o'clock at night. I've been in global jobs for the last...
no more.
No, and I used to be on calls in the morning with one region and then in the evenings with another region. And that's tough.
Yeah,
that's tough. And going back to that earlier point, work-life balance is important. I'm a firm believer that you need work-life balance as well.
So what's your parting thought for our listeners?
I'm sorry, say that again?
What's your parting thought for our listeners?
I think one innovation is one of those key things, and if you don't have the expertise in house, use your partners. I'm a firm believer of building relationships with vendors and building those. And I look at vendors through two lenses. One is those what I consider transactional. I need a specific piece of infrastructure software, or I need a new replenishment of hardware. I'll go ahead and buy that. It's done. And then I think about those vendors that are more of the strategic relationship where we want to be able to ensure that we are learning from them as much as they are learning from us. And being a larger credit union, we believe that we have, innovation that we want to be able to deliver through our members. And I can't do those in my own world without partnerships with the vendors. I mean, we have a dependency on software as well. So the main thing there is to make sure that we have alignment with some of the things that we want to do and the things that they're building into their roadmaps and having that kind of jointly developed.
You can't do it all yourself.
No.
But you got to have the right partners to help you.
Yeah. Partners is important, and then a really strong team, which I live and die by my team. Live and die by my team. They are just the heart of what we are delivering to our membership, and they are equally as passionate as I am.
I feel your passion today. I can tell it. I love it.
Love it.
I think the listeners are really going to take a lot from it.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, you're welcome, Ben. Thank you.